ideally you pull it out straight like that. Maybe a little bit more careful than that. These little brass plugs fit in here almost perfect. Like it feels like a knife edge this way. And we will not be using this O-ring and this like grease shield. You don't want to do that when you go greaseless, because as this like makes dust, it can now eject the dust out of the edges. All right, we're gonna clean this out for him. It's super bright out here. I can't even see the screen. But there's like so much mud in this radiator. And then what we're gonna do is pour a bunch of water down here, and we're gonna see if it leaks anywhere, and then we're gonna mark it with a paint pen, and we know to either take a look in that area or just replace the seal entirely. It feels kind of hard, but so let's get on it. I don't see any drips yet. It's a good sign. That's what we're looking for right there. Here. All right, slight change of plans. We're actually going to fill this back up again, and we're going to start it and rev it a little bit. And then we'll drain it. That'll get it stirred up in there a little better. Of course, it still looks clear. All right, we're gonna start our project, the actual project of upgrades, on this side. Mainly because I just got all this wet. We're gonna go ahead and pull that so it can dry. So let's check out what's inside this clutch. Oh goodness. What is all that? That could be like mouse nest remnants, so I don't think I'm just gonna go grabbing that just yet. Maybe we'll grab a glove to get that off there. It's weird. It's actually kind of hard. Like it's formed. It's fibrous. Oh yeah, this stuff will kill any kind of bacteria. If it'll kill the cells in your body, it'll kill some bacteria. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this cage off here. I apologize for all the air. It's like 95, vent running, fan running, AC running. Not sure how well all that's gonna sound in the video. We'll take them and spray them off outside. So we're going to take 2 of our bolts from taking this off, and we're going to thread them in these holes right here. Make sure they feel like they're threading good. And that's to compress the secondary to where everything's not under tension. So now we'll go ahead and pop these off. This belt is looking a little rough. All right, we're peeling back more layers because we're doing wet clutch stuff. Look what fell out. That's not for me either. Well, I didn't even go mudding. Here's the one I pulled off. Funny. Oh, look at that. Oh, mercy. Mercy, mercy. Look at all that good stuff down in there. You can see where it appears the seal was doing a good job, like right here. And then you can see like corrosion in spots like that. I would assume right here it was leaking. All of that down there probably leaking. Possibly that side right there leaking. And we can take and look at the seal as well. So the seal does not look like that. Alright, so this one probably wasn't leaking, but let's take a look at this one over here. Alright, we have this tear, and you can see there's mud packed all in between the seam. So I think that this one was leaking. And more on that is that there's like these dowels in here that basically determine how far the seal can squish. So once the seal gets compressed, like it starts off this thick and then it sits for years and it gets compressed down to like this, it has no more, you know, opposite force trying to push it out to make the seal actually seal. The owner told me this has some pretty fresh oil in it, so instead of wasting like, I don't know, $20, $30 worth of oil, we're just gonna tip it. And there's going to be a little bit leak, but not as much as if we just left it flat. you don't want to pry on this because there's that one-way bearing in there. So ideally, you pull it out straight like that. Maybe a little bit more careful than that. Outside. So that goes in like this. Let's make sure we're catching the oil. Oh, look at that. We're peeing real good up there. So we did catch a little bit of oil. That's good. Let that drain out right there. So this is a smashed nut. We are going to reuse it, but what we want to note is that if you look, let's see if you can see anything. They smashed it, the flat spot's here, and they smashed it on the high side of the flat spot. So if this nut were to loosen off, it could move this much. They should have smashed it back here on the low side because it's not reverse thread and it's going to back off that way. But this is going to be our alignment whenever we go to torque this back down, because most likely we're not going to be able to put a torque wrench on that properly. It's going to rotate the engine, and so this is going to be where we realign it to. One beautiful wet clutch. Look at that. This is from 2002. Look how nice that still looks. I don't think I showed you the drum, but it's basically perfect. Barely feel them ribs. The only downside to tipping it is everything wants to fall in when you're cleaning it. While I was cleaning this up, it's not done, by the way, I noticed this kind of like wobbling in my hand a little bit. I don't know if you can see the drum up here moving. So I think that bearing is on its way out. It doesn't sound like, well, I guess it does kind of sound bad. But there's no way to really peek in this thing. If I recall, the way you take this apart is you pull this seal, and there's a snap ring behind there that holds that bearing in. And this bearing is going to be kind of like locked on to this shaft. So there's no way to just glance at it or whatever and inspect it like that and then reassemble it without, at minimum, replacing the seal. So I'm waiting on approval for that. So this will be a later piece of the video. I think what we're going to do next is, I dread this. This is going to just be just a nasty mess inside of here. Let me give you a good look at this, because this is the tool I made to take secondaries apart. So it's just a big piece of all thread. I'm not sure the size. It's pretty hefty. And we have double nuts down here lined up. This gets clamped in a vise. 2 fender washers, and then 2 fender washers up here. And then this piece was a piece of square stock originally, and I basically just sliced a side off of it to make it like a C, but we don't want it splitting apart, so that's what this piece is here for. This is literally came off of that, and this is just to keep it from spreading. That's all it is. and I'll show you what it looks like when we put it on. And there is a dimension to this, obviously. So this piece of, now C-channel is wider than this nut, so this nut can spin. Okay, maybe see if we can center that up a little bit. All right, and then we just take a chisel, just a dull chisel, and we're pop it loose. It's just regular threads. There it goes. Okay, and then we loosen this up. And if you see, this is why you don't play around. You want to over-engineer one of these because that's under a lot of tension. So I don't think it needs to be this beefy, but you don't want this thing blowing apart in your face. Look how far that spring came up. It's just now getting under. There we go. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty serious spring. Nut, spring, collar, and this piece here is a collar. Try to find a spot that it wants to cooperate and move with. We're gonna try to get a putty knife in here first. There we go. Now the screwdriver ought to move it a little bit. Let's get the putty knife over here on the other side. Okay. And maybe try to do. This one's got a better tip. We're gonna try to go right on top of the screwdriver. There it goes. So it's just a cup like that. And the purpose of that is hold these pins in. So this is basically what it's doing. That grease is squishing out, and there's pins in here, right here. Ugh. They look like that, little buttons. Yeah, I know I could have prepped my video area a little better. I got metal shavings everywhere and tools out, but I don't plan on being in here too long. So there's 2, 3, 4. All right, and before we do anything, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put a dot right here, all right, and then flip it over, put a dot right here. Make sure that's deep enough. And that way we know when we got to put this together, that we put it back together the way it came apart. And the reason why that's important is if you look, see right here, they've drilled that out to balance it. And I don't know if it's just this piece that they balanced or if they balanced it as a unit. I don't know. You probably don't know. So instead of worrying about that, then just mark the pieces. And this does have a tiny, tiny little O-ring right here. And there's another O-ring right here. And that's to keep that grease from blowing apart whenever this thing expands. The price gougers are making it difficult to find this bearing. Like, you can find it by the part number and you can find it by like type in Grizzly wet clutch bearing or whatever, but they like hide what actual bearing number it is, so you can't look it up by a bearing number to get the Koyo bearing. So alright, so the seal's a 35/66/8. That's not hard to find at all. Let's see, is this going to want to... Goodness. Okay. If you couldn't tell, I pushed that bearing way in. Or not the bearing, the seal. Pushed that seal way in. Which means that it can be pushed in too far whenever we go to actually put it in for real. Snap ring, sharp side up, rounded side down. And now, oh, didn't even need to get the rubber mallet. Now let's see. Let's see what the big secret is. Another snap ring. This one's the other way. This one might pop out at me. How about I put this glove on and use this glove and get the screwdriver. Yes, my boy. Okay. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I had a teacher in high school that used to say that all the time. All the time. And all he was social studies. He wasn't even in an important class. And if he caught you talking, that's what he would say. Before I was so rudely interrupted. Oh, is that right? Because you weren't saying anything. In fact, you interrupted us. So why don't you sit down and shut up? (16010C3) is what it is. Don't judge my giant mess I got going on. And this snap ring was sharp side to the bearing, smooth side up. It doesn't feel as bad as I thought. But the fact that I can feel anything probably means it is bad. So yeah, this is a Koyo. Alright, we got some shims. Let me show you the purpose of these. These are going to go in... They're going to go in here, on this side. If they don't fit, we're going to have to grind on them or something. So the purpose of this is, let me put this on here. If I push down on this, you see it's spinning everything. I put these on here. You see now, they're slipping in between each other. And then this is the other side that it rides on, and this is a harder steel, a slicker steel. So this is, you know, where it usually wants to slip. As you can see, it still kind of catches a rough spot. So what these are going to do is, whenever this is doing like a twisting motion to open up, it does that twisting motion and it makes the spring twist just a little bit, about this much. When it's riding on these two things, it will allow it to move much easier. It won't be in like a bind, basically. And that'll allow the clutch to open and close smoother. There is more depth to work with on this piece, so we're going to put them on this piece. That's the piece it spins on anyway. I'm not sure if by design, so it'll keep spinning on this piece, just easier. Up these surfaces a little bit. The way you're supposed to do it is like in to out, not circles. So I'll clean my area up a little bit so you quit judging me. So we're using Ultramatic grease, Yamalube, $30 a bottle or whatever nonsense. So we are gonna be tight asses with it, that's for sure. Just gonna take it and squirt it inside of these holes until I can see it come out. There's probably a stringer in here like this long through each hole. So then we're gonna put our O-rings back on. They still got a little grease on them, so there's no need to grease them up. I do want to make sure this O-ring If you look at this one, see how lumpy it looks? It had a curl in it when they put this thing on, probably from factory. So you get you a little pick or something and then basically just do a circle around it. And it gets out that twist, so that won't happen. So then we are going to, there's a little like oil seals on this thing. Get them lubed up a little bit. And go ahead and put this thing down. And now we need to line our marks up. There's one. Oh, look at that. I got it right the first time. Okay, and now we can put our little buttons in. And then we're going to put grease around the buttons. About halfway back, filling that gap. Because the only part that needs to be greased is that area right there where this thing slides. So that motion right there, that's the only part that needs to be greased. And inside of here, or on this shaft, there was extra holes. So when this thing gets spinning super fast, it's always slinging that grease out, and it's gonna push out those holes, get inside of here, and kind of like work its way around. So all you really need is enough to fill those cavities. So we're gonna go ahead, after I twist it a little bit, because it went on the inside of here, we're gonna put a little bit more. And then put some of this on there. Put some on here just to help prevent rust. Just like that. Take our excess off of here. And we'll put it up inside of there. We're gonna flatten all that out in here. That way when we stick it on the shaft, it doesn't just push it around. Let's make sure this fits, because I've had the last one I did, it didn't fit perfect. All right, this one does fit perfect. So I'll take a little bit leftover grease that we have on our finger, put that there. And that's it. We just put it back on here. All right, we're getting off center a little bit. center that up a little bit so we can get this nut threading. All right, we got a couple threads on that. Go ahead and make sure that's bottomed out, and it is. And then we'll tighten it down the same way we took it off. All right, I didn't eat my Wheaties this morning. Sometimes you can take and like squeeze it like that and compress it. But we're just gonna do it like this. So that is all working exactly how it should. See if I can show you the twist of it whenever I take this loose. Apologize if this is this clip is like out of order, but we're gonna clean this up real quick. I'll try to edit it in to make it make sense, but kind of just doing stuff back and forth. Much easier and safer than taking a razor blade and scraping all that crap off and nicking it and stuff. So that's basically done. So what we have is a piece of rubber from a floor mat. And we're gonna see if that wants to play nice. We don't need it to be like super tight or anything, but we just need it to not move on us. Like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back. I don't think this matters at all, but I'm going to put that back exactly how it comes apart. And all we have to do is pop out these E-clips. Just take all them out. And note that the open end's facing the outside on all these. Got this piece that is, oh, this piece is flat, this piece is bowed. And then this is what we're trying to get after. They conveniently drilled holes in all of these shoes for who knows what reason, but these little brass plugs fit in here almost perfect. Sometimes you gotta tap them in, which we're gonna take it out of here to tap it in. This is like some super secret, state secret stuff, so make sure you appreciate that. 6.71, 72, 6.74, 6.75, 6.72. So 6.7. I think when I made my own, I made them around 6 grams. They were like 6.2. And it works just fine. So the purpose of this, if you don't know, is you add more weight to this and it has more mass, which means it has more centrifugal force holding it against the drum. So like if you put big mud tires and stuff on these, instead of this slipping and burning up, because this is expensive, it's going to basically force the belt to slip and burn up, which is less expensive. I
think it's before the time of they drilled that out and then recycled that metal to save 14 cents, to save one dolphin. One wet clutch is one dolphin. Oh boy. Yeah, if you can see that, that is not round anymore. Neither is that one. 18.22, 18.19. So it's probably 18. It's just got a bunch of crap in it. These are a two-piece design. See, it's got the inner piece. Inner piece is 15.58, and then the shell. The shell is what's damaged. So I'm gonna see if he wants to go like a dry setup, or just get lighter weights, or just replace the shells. You can take these and basically take a burr bit and then kind of hog out the middle and take off material and lighten these. We got some problems. That one is huge. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's almost enough to slice your skin. Like, it feels like a knife edge this way. So, we're gonna do a new sheave. I told him maybe I could put like emery cloth on a piece of wood, kind of like work this. But a new sheave is like 50 bucks, and then he's gonna do the carbon fiber versions of these and the ceramic weights, the greaseless weights. All right, we got a whole pile of stuff going on right here. So we got these ceramic greaseless weights. We have a ball bearing pressed into them, and yes, the ball bearing comes out further than the weight. One side's got a groove cut out of it. I think that's for them actually getting the weight within. These are 16 gram, and they were all 16.12 to 16.19. So they're all pretty close. And it doesn't say if you should put the groove towards the load side or not, so we're going to put the flat side towards the load side because it just makes more surface area. So I have this marked. It's going to spin this way, which means all of the weights are going to get, you know, centrifugal force. This is going to spin, and then this is going to lock to this side. So we're putting that this way. We are going to, this is a new Caltric clutch sheave, by the way. It came with a new cam plate and the dust guard, O-ring, the weights, and then the sliders, and they had a little bit of grease in them, some real sticky grease. So, but we're going to reuse the original cam plate because the Japanese steel is going to be harder than the Chinese steel, and it's already got slick spots wore in it, and it doesn't have any damage or grooves or anything. And so these sliders or buttons are allegedly carbon fiber, and they're greaseless as well. So with that setup, we're going to put this on here, and we will not be using this O-ring and this like grease shield. You don't want to do that when you go greaseless, because as this like makes dust, it can now eject the dust out of the edges. So, and then it settles in the bottom and blows out the clutch exhaust, or crack the cover and spray it out. We're also going to reuse the I don't know what the hell this piece is, but this rod, we're going to reuse this because it is just a hair taller or longer than the other piece. And the reason why that matters, and I'm talking like just enough to get my fingernail on it. Like I can tell there's a little bit of a difference, but I mean, it's probably like 1/2 millimeter. But what we're going to do is we're going to shim this primary to where the belt rides lower, which is going to give it more bottom end essentially. And all that shim's doing is basically spreading this out. We're going to put the shim on that be this shaft, and then this is going to butt up against it. So basically, if we went with a shorter rod here in shims, it would be the equivalent of just using a longer rod. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit better. And then we have the new bearing. We have all the stuff to put this wet clutch drum back together. So I got the bearing in the freezer. We're going to put that bearing in, put this on, and then put the seal in. This wasn't in there that long, so it's probably not going to go in very easy. remember, we're just going to line that back up. And we folded it on the left side, so it'll actually prevent it from backing off if it were to do so. This gasket came in the mail all bent and folded up, so I am just going to put a little bit of 3-bond in the spots that it looks like it was creased, because there's a couple of them where it actually looks like it's separating the gasket. So we'll try to squirt some of this stuff in there. Reinforce this gasket a little bit in those spots. I'm generally not a fan of putting sealant on a gasket, but China times call for China measures. All right, we got our dot outside, the stamping outside. So then we need to line that one-way bearing up, and the rest will just slip on. And then it should rotate counterclockwise and not rotate clockwise. These are supposed to be 7.2 foot-pounds. We're doing 87 inch-pounds. I think that's rounded up. All right, we got some fresh seals here. We got some dielectric grease on the mating surface. We're gonna do that inside and outside. I had let this down to make sure it wasn't gonna leak oil. And then now we're just gonna go ahead and keep assembling. We already got a little grease inside of there. We're gonna go ahead and get this nut on here. I put some red Loctite on it. And I have this on 1 and this on 1 on a finer thread. Like this is a finer thread. This does about 75 foot-pounds, and this is supposed to be 72. So we're just going to go until this basically stops. And we're going to call that 72. This one will need to be 85, so we'll hold that one until it like for sure stops, and then we might bump this on like 2 and then watch it turn just like that much more. All right, let's go ahead and slip this inner sheave on here. We're going to go ahead and spread apart this secondary. And now we're going to put our new EPI Super Duty belt on there. Which it's talking about break-in procedure. Wash the belt in warm soapy water and allow to air dry. We've already done that. when you're handling this thing, always make sure you hold on to this cam plate, because if you start letting this flip and flop around, these will end up sideways jammed. I already got some grease on the inside. Oh, wait, we're missing a step. We're doing these. Alright, so we're going to put our shims on here. We have 4 different shims, and they're all kind of undersized, so I assume this should be 1 millimeter. It's 0.95. I assume this should be 0.5, and it's 0.43. So when we stick these together, we're at 1.37. And then this one is 0.15, so let's add this one on here. And we're 1.56. So we're going to use this stack and see how well it fits. And this needs to go on here first. Like that. So we created that much of a gap right there. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that cam plate's going to fit on there good. So let's grab this other cam plate real quick. We want all of those splines to actually be making contact. Okay, we're going to take off the 0.15. Take this one off. Okay, so I can actually see the edge of the spline sticking out now. And this is like rounded, so this isn't square edged. So you should give it a little bit. I've heard people talking about they shimmed at 1.8. Well, if you use this stock rod here and you shimmed at 1.8, this is hanging on by a thread, and all it's going to take is just one good bounce in the mud or something, and it's probably going to strip this cam plate out, because there's just not enough meat to hold that on there. So I'm happy with that. We'll get rid of this one, so we'll shim at 1.36 or whatever it was. Alright, I already got some grease in this. Okay, looks good. You always want to make sure that you have enough slack on this belt so the belt's not trying to push it out, because that can also cause this to not get seated square. Try to center this washer on here, because the washer is a little bit bigger than the shaft, and all of that like loping centrifugal force can add vibrations that you don't want. When we hit it, the impact is probably going to go crooked anyway. Alright, so this is the one that's 85. Look at all this powder falling off this thing. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot like that. Turn this up a notch. And then we went a little bit past it, so I'm confident that that's 85. Let's take this out. And then we want to spin this to where it flexes out and spreads. So now we got, you see this is on the outer edge. That'll make it to where it doesn't get caught on anything when we go to put that cover on. All right, we got a new bearing. It's a good Koyo bearing and a Caltric seal for this cage, because this bearing was loose, and then that put like a whole bunch of extra load in this little tiny bearing in here for the basically support. All right, I just so happen to have this, which is like the proper tool for it. It's called a blind bearing puller. But if you didn't have one of these, you'd probably just heat this thing up like hot, and maybe use like the, oh, you know, the people in sandals, how they post them videos with like the green check mark and the red X. There's some trick with like a bolt or whatever that would probably work if it's hot enough. All right, that's not wanting to come out, so we are going to add heat. I bet you come out of there now. All right, well, this thing's still super hot. We're gonna go ahead and get the new bearing in here, because it'll probably drop in a lot easier. All right, we'll let that sit for a while, and then we'll put the seal in. All right, just packing a little grease in this seal, mainly to keep that spring from rusting. And this is still kind of hot, nothing too crazy. I can actually push that in with my fingers. This has a little bit of wiggle, make sure you center that. Alright, these holes go like right here for the cover. Those inners were supposed to be 7.2, and then it says this cage is supposed to be like 11 or something, but I know better than to put 11 on them tiny M6 bolts, so we're going like a hair tighter because it's not squishing in between a gasket. It's metal on metal. But we're probably only doing about 8, maybe 8.5.